On the Wire, in association with Ladbrokes.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of On the Wire in association with Ladbrokes, your essential place to hear about all the latest tips and offers ahead of another weekend of Irish racing action. Sadly, no Johnny Ward this week, so you have to stick with me. Apologies for that. But in this edition, we're going to look ahead to a fantastic couple of days of action at Down, which of course features Grade 1 action with the Ladbrokes Champion Chase. All that, and there's a time for plenty of fun along the way with some really good guests right here on the Wire. So plenty to come, but first off, let's bring in Nicola McGeady from our On the Wire partner at Ladbrokes to give out some interesting offers ahead of the action at Down. How are you, Nicola? You well?
I'm good, Danny. I can't wait for this meeting at Down. You know, it always has a genuine festival feel to it. It's full capacity most years, and there's just been some amazing stories in recent years as well. So let's hope for more of the same.
And a big couple of days, of course, for Ladbrokes. You sponsor the feature, the Champion Chase. Jerry Colomb, warm order for that, and you've got an offer for Gordon Elliott's charge.
We do indeed. The whole festival's kind of this has been the talking horse, Jerry Colomb. Of course, he won by 7.5 lengths at Aintree Festival, bouncing back from Cheltenham in style, and he just looks a really exciting horse, the talking horse, as I said at the meeting. So we've boosted his price to 2-1 from 13 to 8 to win the Ladbrokes Champion Chase tomorrow by over 4.5 lengths. So Jerry Colomb to win by over 4.5 lengths, now 2-1. That mark will be live for the next couple of hours.
Brilliant. Thanks very much to Nick. Just a moment, we're going to be joined by the rest of our panel, including Paul Townend, to look ahead to a bumper weekend. See a fine array of guests joining us. Mark Boylan from the Irish Field, a regular on the show, Racing TV's very own Donn McLean, and great to be joined, of course, by Paul Townend. Firstly, Paul, how are you? Looking forward to the weekend?
Yeah, big weekend. Fortunately, I'm not too busy in Down Royal, but I suppose it's the start of the season getting going proper, isn't it? The first Grade 1 over here, and I'll be watching a lot of exciting horses very closely.
Very briefly, Paul, just a word on an already busy week for Close Sutton. Of course, we saw Allaho and Allegory Devassi win at Clonmel. Just a word on Allaho in particular, coming back after a 561-day layoff.
Yeah, I suppose firstly, brilliant to get him back on the track and to see him out in full health. He done well to win. The ground was very testing down there. I suppose it was a lovely place to start him off. Just the 3 runners in the end. But he could do no more than turn up, and hopefully Willie can build a program on the back of what he done yesterday.
Plenty more to come from Paul, but first off, Mark, of course, this meeting rescheduled from last weekend when there was a deluge of rain. But it looks like, in terms from a drainage point of view of the last week, everything looks in fine fettle now.
That's it. Some of the pictures that were circulating on WhatsApp of the track this time last week weren't too promising. So fair play to all the team there. We've got a bit of luck as well with the weather, thank God. So look, it should be a super weekend. I was just looking back last night at some of the winners we've had at this meeting over the last few years. You saw too many to name really, but you've American Mike's, Ballyadam, Battle Over Daya, Don Cossack's, Step Duties, Envoy Adams, Espoir Dallin, Fury Road, Impervious, Jeski, Mellon, Mighty Potter, Pied Piper, Quilixia, Sam Crosser, Gerhard, Sky Ace, Zana here, I'm leaving out a bundle there, but I mean, it's just a really, really quality weekend. And I can't wait for the big one in particular. It's just fascinating. Two yards represented, but 4 very classy horses, and Ladbrokes Champion Chase, usually a cracker. This year, no different.
Yeah, Mark's listed off plenty there. But Don, it's a very intriguing weekend of action as well. You can see some exciting youngsters unleashed as well over the 2 days.
That's it. Yeah, exactly, Danny. Like as Paul was saying there, that it's the National Hunt season. We're up and running now. And, there's debate about when the actual National Hunt season starts. Some say it starts the day after Punchestown. But we're really getting into it now. And yeah, look, it's brilliant that the meeting was saved, and fair play to the authorities, because, as Mark was saying there, like to think that like last week it was underwater, literally underwater, and now there's yielding creeping in, like it's kind of soft yielding in places. So yeah, it's remarkable the way it's drained, but no, brilliant that it's off.
And Paul, you're in action, of course, on Friday. Just for anyone watching at home, what is Down like as a track to ride in general?
Yeah, it's a good fair track. It's 1.7-ish around. It's one of our biggest tracks in Ireland, and we're delighted to be up there. It's a fair track. I think the best horse normally wins there. It tests the horse jumping, and you have to stay there also.
So we'll look ahead to the feature racing then on today. The Bottlegreen Hurdle is the highlight, €50,000 contest. It looks a competitive enough affair, but what do you think about this, Mark? We've got, of course, flip-flopping favourites really from last night with Magical Zoe for Henry de Bromhead and Gordon Elliott's Irish Point. Looks tight at the top between those two. Do you have it down as a two-horse race?
I think so, yeah, Danny. I think it's very difficult to look beyond them. I think this race usually it can turn into sometimes a one-horse race. At least we have two to have a go and battle here. But I just think Irish Point is probably the superior one in terms of ability. And I actually think a team coming into this weekend, if there was anyone that might be happy with the little delay to this meeting, it might be Gordon Elliott. I just think some of his horses, earlier in the month, towards the end of last month, I just thought visually watching them, some of them were needing their run. And then you look yesterday at Clonmel, he fires out a treble. His only other runner on the card came down at the last one with a real chance too. So I just feel that that extra little bit of time, it's going to have done them no harm. They're definitely firing at the moment, I feel, and a huge weekend for him. But this horse, you just see the clip there at Aintree, real nice performance. Look at it. I wouldn't always place a huge amount of emphasis with a view to when we get to the real winter stuff, or maybe your very end of the season stuff last season. But I still think in terms of proper Grade 1 ability, I think this guy is right there. Whereas Magical Zoe, lovely mare, but just has a little bit more to prove for me, albeit she might have a little edge on him in sharpness first time up here.
Don, we're having a look at her win at Gorham Park on comeback. What did you make of in general Magical Zoe, and what do you think of her chances against Irish Point?
Yeah, look, she's a lovely mare, Danny, and like she was always highly regarded by Henry de Bromhead and his team. She sprang a bit of a shock at this meeting last year, but then we know that she handles the track. She ran a massive race in the Mares Novices Hurdle. She did so well to get up for second place. Lots of things went wrong. She was well back. She was wide. She got hampered at the second last. She didn't jump the last while. She had to challenge in the far side, and still she got up to finish second. So that was a massive run. And then she did disappoint in the Honeysuckle Hurdle back at Fairyhouse, but you can allow her that. It was over 2.5 miles as well, and I'm not certain that she stays 2.5. And then that run the last day, that was a really good run at Gordon Park. She beat Say Goodbye, who went off to America and won at Far Hills after that, and then got beaten at Montpellier. I'm not up on the form at Montpellier, but she's a good mare, Gordon Elliott. So like to do that, and as Mark was saying, that's her first run back, so she's got race fitness on her side. But yeah, look, I just think Irish Point, he's a horse who, like, he has to give her £13 now, so it's not going to be easy. But he's a horse from whom, lots was expected last year. Gordon Elliott missed Cheltenham with him, which was very astute. And he went to Naas, he won the Grade 3 race there. And that race that we just saw at Aintree, the Mersey Hurdle, that was a really impressive performance. I mean, I know Katira, who was second behind him, Dan Skelton, she was beaten in the Mares Hurdle at Wetherby last week. But that race was won by You Wear It Well, who finished 5th in that race. Hermes Allen was behind him. Let's be clear about it. It was back and forth, and he's been really impressive in his 2 chases this season, Gavin Cromwell's horse. So that was a very, very strong race. It's strong form. And maybe Irish Point will be better over 2.5 this season, like his run when he finished second behind Champ Kiley. That was a really good run. That was over 2.5. And maybe the trip 2 miles on a furlong, he doesn't lack pace, as we saw in the Royal Bond Hurdle when he was only just beaten by Marine Nationale. But I thought the way Davy Russell rode him at Aintree, kind of patiently in behind, that's a style that seemed to suit him well. And yeah, I think Irish Point could be a big horse for the season ahead.
Okay, 2 votes for Irish Point. And just a word from you, Paul, on this clash. Who do you see coming out on top?
Yeah, I'd agree with Mark and Don. I think going forward for the season ahead, Irish Point is probably the more exciting horse. But I just think this on the day, he could be vulnerable to Magical Zoe after having a run. She quickened up very smartly to actually beat me in this card last year. And just given that weight this time of year, over 2 miles, I wouldn't be surprised if they were letting Irish Point go a little bit. And it just might be hard this time of the season. I think he could be vulnerable to Magical Zoe, but he's probably the exciting horse for the season to come.
Let's talk about your ride then, Paul, in the Feathered Lady Mares Novice Hurdle. That's Williamstown Dancer. Just a word on her. She takes on, of course, Brighter Days Ahead, who's a very short price. But I think we've got a bit of BT footage to show from both Tipperary and Roscommon. What do you make of the chances today?
It's not going to be easy to give give her £7. We have experience over hurdles on brighter days ahead. Look, it was a bit of a no contest in Thurles, but she could do no more than turn up and win. She went a bit left that day. I think in a more competitive race, I'd imagine brighter days ahead will be straight and true, and with the benefit of the run that day. As I say, it won't be easy giving her weight, but our filly's improving away. Bar the disappointment in Gordon in Galway that there was excuses for. She won very well in Tipperary, beat a good yardstick in Bailey stock. So look, if they were off levels, you'd be happier. But we're going there with every chance, and maybe we'll be able to catch brighter days ahead on the hop a little bit, but it won't be any easy feat.
Mark, I think we got some VT of Williamstown Dancer winning at Tipperary and Roscommon, which we'll put in. But what do you think on this contest? Brighter Days Ahead has been one of those hurdlers who's been very, very positive comments from Gordon Elliott et al. What do you think?
Look, I'd like to be more original about it, but to me last season, this was the most impressive bumper filly either side of the Irish Sea. I thought she was really sizzling. And pedigree-wise, she's bred to be a superstar. She's closely related to Mighty Potter, French Dynamite, Indiana Jones, like what a producer that mare was. And 310,000 store as well. Like, high things have always been expected of her. And I just thought her performances last season, she really lived up to the hype. Albeit now, look, you wouldn't have been getting wowed first time up over hurdles, but I just nearly think it was too easy for her. If she just had a chance to DOS, I actually think getting a chance to get her into better company, I think her mind will be on the job. I wasn't roaring out the door to go and back her for a Mayor's Novice off the back of solely what I saw on her hurdling debut. But I think last season, the ability she showed for a 4-year-old filly in particular, I thought it was really, really eye-catching. And I think Ladbrokes are a best price for the Mayor's Novice hurdle. It's not my nature to be going backing horses this early in the season for a Mayor's Novice, but to one, I think that's probably fair value, and I think she'll win today. I think she'll be shorter afterwards. I'm a big fan of her. But look, Williamstown Dancer, good yardstick, solid type. I actually really like that performance for Roscommon we've just seen there. This is a step up again, but I just think brighter days ahead. I think she's one of the best bumper fillies I've seen for a little while.
Nicola, brighter days ahead, I guess, the jolly that you want to get beat today?
Yeah, not necessarily actually. Paul's obviously only ride of the day is Williamstown Dancer, and that's come for most of the money in the last half an hour. It's shortening up now 3-1 from 7-2. So obviously she's more experienced, but has to deal with a penalty. Of course, brighter days ahead is the one to beat at even money, but the money seems to be going for Williamstown Dancer, which is interesting given brighter days ahead. Her transition to hurdling couldn't have gone better with that 10-length win at Thurles last month. So I think it's going to be a tight contest, though. You've got Birdie or Bust as well, is in there at 9-2, but of course was beaten by Williamstown Dancer. But this is a horse who's open to improvement as well. So yeah, overall, I think it could be a tight contest between those three.
And then finally, just on your thoughts on the race.
Yeah, I on the day, I think Williamstown Dancer, I think that she's got a good chance of beating Brighter Days Ahead. Look, Brighter Days Ahead, as Mark was saying, she was so impressive last season. She was so exciting. She won that good George Myrna Memorial bumper at Ferryhouse. And yeah, her hurdling debut, you wouldn't have been overly impressed by it, but as Paul was saying, she was out to her left, but she was in front, and Jack Kennedy said afterwards that he really wouldn't like to lead, and I'm sure she'd be a better filly with the lead. But Williamstown Dancer, she's often an underrated filly. She was the third best of the three Willie Mullins horses in the Tipperary race the last day, according to the market, and she did it really well. She made a pretty bad mistake, and I think it was the fourth from the far right, and she wasn't at the last either, but she kept on well. And she was always holding Bialystock onto the line. She had Birdie or Bust, as Nicola said, there behind her in third, and she reopposes. So I'd say there's every chance, even on slightly worse terms, she should confirm the form with Birdie or Bust. But yeah, I like her. I think she's a real honest, tough filly. She surprised us in the past, but she has good bumper form. She finished third in the good Grade 2 Mayor's bumper at the Entry Festival. So she's a talented filly. And look, you can see Brighter Days Ahead maybe being a better mare this season in time, but Williamstown Dancer, she seems to, I just say she's more battle hardened, and there's every chance that on the day she could get the better of her.
Okay, that's a look then at the Mayor's Novice hurdle. And finally, we'll have a quick look at the Beginner's Chase, because it's an interesting affair just between the top two in the market, you'd say, Founder 50 and Colonel Mustard. And when you look at the Roll of Honour, Gordon Elliott's won this with Abattoir Phil, Tombstone, Delta Works, Sampro, Envar LN, and of course the late Mighty Potter last year. I'm a big Colonel Mustard fan, though, so I've got to be with him for Lorna Fowler. She was on Racing TV earlier on this term and thinks could be a big year for him over fences. I'm not sure what you thought, Don, of that clash.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, you have to respect the Gordon Elliott horse found the 50 and competed at a high level last season over hurdles going down. And Chase Colonel Mustard does have the benefit of 2 runs over fences. He was a really good hurdler 2 seasons ago, and he was an exciting chaser for last season. He ran well in a beginner's chase at Navan that on the day looked like it was a really competitive, really good beginner's chase. Hollow Games won it. He probably didn't go on from that the next time at Fairyhouse. I know El Fabiola beat him easily, but he was really well beaten by him. And then Lorna Fowler and Connections went back over hurdles, I guess, to preserve his novice status for this season. So he's got that experience on the board. He's 140 high rated hurdler. So I think he sets a good standard that the rest have to get up to. So yeah, I do like him. Rachel Blackmore riding as well for Lorna Fowler. So yeah, lots of positives.
So 2 votes there maybe for Colonel Mustard. Mark?
It's going to be a watching race for me, because last season Colonel Mustard did come on for his first run of the season. If there was mark of confidence behind him here close to the off, it would encourage me. But Found a 50 was a horse I was really, really excited about. Probably one of the most exciting horses I thought last season. It didn't go to Cheltenham, but he kind of let me down with a bang. What followed later in the spring, I thought that run with Corbett's Cross at Naas earlier in the season, I thought that was a proper piece of form. Even this maiden hurdle, I know some of it hasn't worked out to a very high level, but you see him here in the Bective colours, the red cap. I was particularly excited about him, but maybe look at some of Gordon Elliott's horses when it came to Punchestown last season, just went off the boil slightly. It was a quiet time for him. Maybe just some of them were running on red in terms of petrol left in the tank. But this horse, I think, when all falls right, is very sharp. Gordon, obviously, record in this race is outstanding, but it's going to be a watching one for me, because I just think Colonel Mustard, he brings a very, very solid level of form to the table over hurdles, has that bit of chasing experience, but just lack of a run when he was beaten last season, first time up. I'll just be watching the market later on, Danny.
And Paul, you rode Parmenion to victory after finishing second in that race on Founder 50. What do you think of that little tussle between the top two in the market here?
Yeah, it's going to be a race I'm going to be watching with a lot of interest. Colonel Mustard has the benefit of a couple of runs, as Don said, over fences, and came back a week after being an heir to finish 9 lengths behind Stateman, the champion hurdle in Punchestown. That's very high level of form. Found a 50, was a tricky horse, I thought, to ride last year, and maybe with a fence in front of him, it might just steady him up a little bit more and make him, a little bit more manageable. He's a bit older now as well, so I'll be interested to see what he does when he puts his eye on a fence, whether he attacks it or whether it just makes him a little bit more manageable for Jack. He did blow out, I suppose, is the only way of putting it, towards the back end of last season. But what he showed in Naas was very promising, and it's good that he's going to actually have the two of these are going to have a race for their first day around. We're going to learn plenty, because if one was there without the other, you'd imagine it would just be a canter around and no one would learn anything.
And Nicola, from a betting perspective, who are punters favouring at this point?
Yeah, well, Founder 50's the odds-on favourite at 10 to 11, which is no surprise given Gordon's record in the race. But it is Colonel Mustard who's the one proving popular. He went 6-4 from 15 to 8 when prices went up last night. And obviously, as you said, Danny, his trainer Lorna Fowler seems to be really excited and bullish in her quotes in the press. So, it'll be interesting. I mean, after that, then you've got Le Mans Mason at 17 to 2 and Lucky Max at 11 to 1. So, yeah, Colonel Mustard, the one proving most popular.
Colonel Mustard, my best bet of the day, fingers crossed. What about yourself, Mark?
Oh, brighter days ahead. We'll keep it simple. Hope she'll go and do the job.
Don?
Yeah, it's against Mark, actually. It's William's answer. With Paul, I just think that they should be closer in the market than they are. I think she should be closer to brighter days ahead than she is in the market, yeah.
Boylan versus Townend and McLean, like to see it. And Nicola, who's your best bet?
I'm going to go with Magical Zoe in the grade 3, just given her top level experience as well. I think she can edge it.
And just Paul, final word then on Williamstown Darts. You're hopeful of a big run today.
Yeah, as I say, look, she's doing everything right. She's going there in good form. As Don said, she's surprised us a few times. she sets a good level, and I think brighter days ahead will have to turn up to beat her, and we'll know she has had a race.
Paul, just sticking with you, obviously, we've already mentioned how the National Hunt season really getting rolling. Close Sutton starting to unleash the big guns, still likes of Imperial Pass, State Man, plenty more to come out. But it's an exciting time of year. I saw a post yesterday, people saying, the Close Sutton squad is like the Real Madrid Galacticos this year of the mid 2000s. There's a ridiculous amount of talent, even though the likes of an Ergamin has already been ruled out for the season. Exciting times ahead.
Hugely exciting. I suppose we have a lot of flag bearers coming back from last year, and there's a lot of new names on the board and on the doors inside there. So I'm excited to throw my leg over them and try and find another superstar, hopefully. And I suppose the main thing is now to get them back on the track and make plans after that. I suppose the start of them was Allaho and Allegory running during the week, and they won. So hopefully we can kick on from them.
And in terms of what's coming up, mention those two hurdlers, but of course Galloping de Champs as well. Is all okay with the rest of the big guns in terms of their early season targets at the moment?
Yeah, we managed to keep them all okay while Willie was down in Australia, so they're all back in his hands now, and he can make a plan and get stuck into them. So look, I suppose it's typical Willie. He's not in any rush with him this time of year, but we're starting to turn the screw a small bit and riding and schooling a couple more of them. So I suppose I'm like a child at Christmas now. The presents are under the tree, but I'm not allowed to open them yet.
And last season was a fantastic year again for Close Sutton. Champion Chase, Glory, Gold Cup, plenty more successes along the way. Was it a year that does stand out for you in terms of what was achieved by the team and some of the big race victories?
I think definitely. I suppose when you're stuck in the middle of it and on the hamster wheel, it's one weekend rolls into the next. But during the summer, we had a bit of time to sit back and reflect on it. And things look. It was a magical season. If you'd be going well to try and replicate it again next year, but we'll do our best. Galloping de Champs obviously was probably the standout, being a Gold Cup again, but Energy Means performance, as you say, in the Champion Chase was special, and I thought some of the novices looked really exciting as well.
I'm sure there's plenty that the guys want to ask about. Mark, any that you wanted to ask about, or any questions for Paul?
I was only just trying to think what's left on the CV to try and what's on the bucket list, Paul. Sure, Grand National is probably the big one, but are there any other itches you're mad to scratch? You got your Galway Hurdle mojo back during the summer?
I did. It was a long time between drinks at the Galway Hurdle, but a Champion Hurdle is one I'd love to win. Isterbrack, I suppose, was the horse that really caught my imagination growing up, and I had a close association with Hurricane Fly. So we have the unenviable task of trying to beat Constitution Hill in that sphere. But
sounds easy.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, the Champion Hurdle is probably the one that's left in of the big ones in Cheltenham, and one that I personally would love to win.
I mean, State Man still had a fantastic year despite seeing his backside at Cheltenham. But I mean, Imperial Pass is a horse that a lot of people are very excited about to see him take on Constitution Hill. I mean, you've obviously got an enviable task choosing between those two throughout the season. But do you think Imperial Pass could be the horse who could serve it up to him?
On what he done in Cheltenham last year, he's every right to go down that route, and he's definitely going to be one that'll take beating. Whereas Imperial Pass' ceiling, we don't know, because he keeps so much for himself at home that he surprises us every day he goes to the race course, and it's like riding two different horses, to be honest. So yeah, he'll have to step up. He'll obviously into open company, but he's the horse that if there is one coming through, he's probably the most likely one to throw his name in the ring anyway. And I wouldn't envy any horse taking on Constitution Hill after what I seen last year in Cheltenham, to be honest.
And just a word finally, Paul, on some of the younger talent. Last year, the likes of Tully Hill or a Ballyburn, or I know a dark horse for some this year is In Atlantique. There's a lot of exciting novice hurdlers and Factor File going novice chasing. The strength in depth is ridiculous, but there's a lot of exciting prospects in those fields as well.
There is indeed. Il Atlantique actually pulls out in Gorn on Saturday. Look, he's probably the first of the novices to pull out, so we'll see where we kind of are with them. as anyone knows, this time of year with Willies, they're always going to come on for it. But yeah, the rest of the bumper horses have popped a couple of hurdles and things. Most of them are ex-pointer pointers and things, so someone else has the hard work done in that. But they're all tipping away, they're bubbling away there, and yeah, there's a lot of exciting horses to look forward to, and hopefully we can stay in one piece and get to ride them.
Good stuff from Paul. We'll pause just there to take a break, but stick with us and we'll look ahead to all of Saturday's action, including, of course, the Ladbrokes Champion Chase live from Down Raw, right here on The Wire. So thanks for sticking with us here on The Wire as we move on, of course, with intriguing looking Saturday at Down Raw. Just a reminder about that Ladbrokes offer, Nicola, on Jerry Colomb. Jerry Colomb to win by over 4.5 lengths, now 2-1, and was 13-8. But of course, the most appropriate place to start then is that Ladbrokes Champion Chase, off at 220. Just the 4 runners involved: Jerry Colomb, Manila Indo Conflated, and of course the defending champion Boylan. Who wants to start us off? Donn, who do you like in this? Are you in Jerry Colomb's camp, or are you looking to take him on first time out?
No, I'm not looking to take Jerry Colomb on. Like as you say, Danny, it's only a 4-horse race, but it's such an intriguing race because you've got the youngster Jerry Colomb, who, like Jerry Colomb last year, he looked like a real stare to me anyway, and he still had the pace to win a Silly Isles Chase at Sandown on good to soft ground, a park course over 2.5 miles. So to me, that showed an extra dimension to him. Here we see him at Aintree, and this is such a good performance. Like he traveled like the most likely winner the whole way. That's Complete Unknown in behind. Complete Unknown's a short price for the Harold Gold Cup. I think that's where he's going to go, although he isn't the Paddy Power as well. Braun's back in third. Braun maybe can get home, but Jerry Colomb couldn't have done much more than he did. And you kind of, again, personally going into that race, I thought he might have been vulnerable at Aintree. That, you know, Cheltenham suits him so well. He was unlucky not to win the Brown Advisory Chase. And even before Aintree, to me, he looked like a Gold Cup horse. Then he went and did what he did at Aintree, as we saw. Suddenly he's a 7-1 shot for the Gold Cup, and he's got even shorter since he's been declared and ready to run here. So look, he's such an exciting prospect. He's 7 going 8. He's still a young horse. He's only had 5 runs over fences. His only defeat in his life was in that Brown Advisory Chase when he was beating a short head, finishing well in another stride or two. He would have been up. He's won his point to point. He's won all his bumpers, won all his hurdle races. So you just still don't know where the ceiling is with him. That said, he's taking on Manila Indo, and like I know Manila Indo's 10 going 11, but he was very good the last day at Punchestown. Rachel Blackmore got him into a lovely rhythm, and I think he seemed to enjoy being out in front. Now I know he does go well fresh. A lot of his best form is when he's been fresh, but he doesn't have to be fresh. And look, the Hurricane Georgie finished off her race well. She ran a massive race to chase him home, but he had the race put to bed before that. And like it's significant as well that Rachel Blackmore has gone on to Boylan, and maybe that's because Boylan has such a good record at Down Royal. He was disappointed at Gorham Park the last day, but he was brilliant in the Ryanair Chase. That was the real Boylan. We know that he goes well fresh. We know that he goes well at Down Royal, and like he's a massive player as well. Conflated of the 4 of them, I know he's the outsider of 4. I think Conflated, he'll have to come on obviously from his run at Punchestown. He might be a horse better going left-handed and maybe better back at Leopardstown, but like I think Jerry Colomb is the right favourite because he's got all that potential. But I think Boylan, he'll probably have to run better than he ran last year if he's going to beat both Manila Indo and Jerry Colomb. So, but I still think he's a big player. But yeah, I think Jerry Colomb is just such an exciting horse for the whole season.
Paul, if you could ride any of the 4, would it be Jerry Colomb?
He's the one you'd look forward to riding for the most exciting one for the season ahead. The other horses have been there and done it, but he's the novice coming through that could be the biggest threat to my horse for the season to come. So yeah, he's definitely the one you'd like to ride. I thought Manila Indo absolutely loved it in Punchestown the last day, and winning there will have done him the world of good, I think, as well. Rachel switches onto Boylan, who Mouse's horse was second that day in Gorn and went on and beat Braveman's Game the other day. So the 2 of them, I think, will step forward. They looked quite big before the race in Gorn that day. They'll definitely step forward for it. But yeah, going forward, Jerry Colombe looks the most exciting of these. The other boys have been there and done it. He's the one stepping up to the mark, but just the ease in which he went through the race in Aintree, he was the winner everywhere, and he looks a little bit special.
Boylan, of course, a defending champion, Nicola. We got some nice footage of you with Rachel Blackmore last year. I think it's going to come up on the screen as well. But what do you make of Boylan's title defence here?
Yeah, I mean, here's how we bet. We go 5-6 Jerry Colombe, Manila Indo's 4-1, Conflated 9-2, and Boylan is 6-1. And yes, just the 4 runners, but to echo what everyone else said, they've got such class, and it's going to be such an intriguing renewal. Jerry Colombe is the favourite, and as Donn said, he has his hat in the ring for next year's Gold Cup. Is 6-1 with Ladbrokes right now, with just Galopin Des Champs ahead of him in that respect. Cheltenham didn't work out, but he just showed his true class at the Aintree Festival. You could say that was a weakish field, but he couldn't have looked more impressive that day. He is coming for money. He was 11-10 earlier in the week, and he's now just 5-6, and that's the best price around. Manila Indo, of course, former Cheltenham Gold Cup winner, rolled back the years last month with a very impressive win at Punchestown in a Grade 3 contest. Our traders seem to quite like Conflated here, who obviously was in that same race and failed to fire that day. So that's interesting. We make it 9-2, probably one of the ones that are keeping Conflated on side. We know Boylan is a top-class horse, having won the Ryanair, and it is in there at 6-1, but I think this is more of a horse for the spring festivals than now, but overall a really fascinating race.
Mark, finally, what are your thoughts on the race?
I find it funny in the sense that, you look at the Cheltenham Gold Cup market this far out, and I think Jerry Colombe was the best price 6-1, or joint best price 6-1 at Ladbrokes for a Gold Cup. And the rest of the 3 in the lineup here, you can get 50s and 66s, or some of them aren't even quoted with a lot of firms. If you're to read it that clearly, you'd think it's a turn up and shoot for Jerry Colombe, but I'm not willing to just crown him just yet. And I think he's a horse who will improve as the season goes on. He does very little wrong. He's really likeable. But I have a slight query over just how deep last year's staying novice chasers were. And you look at the classifications at the end of the season, you're seeing the real whacker, rated equal to him. I think the next 1, 2, 3 are further in the classifications is Kill Crush. We obviously lost Mighty Potter. Impervious is out for a while. Braun is next in the standings. Flame Bear wouldn't be too far around there. All solid horses, but I just think that level of form, I suppose, last season, even when you've seen Farinelli going from the campaign he had, going bumpers, hurdles, and then he wins a Grade 1 novice chase at Punchestown at the end of the season. I just like to see Jerry Colombe go out and do it in senior open company before I absolutely dive into them, that he is the biggest threat to Galopin Des Champs. I think Galopin is still absolutely the one everybody has to beat, and I think it's a proper standard set. But I actually thought at the prices, I thought Manila Indo, he might be slightly overlooked. I know Rachel Blackmore rides Boylan, but Boylan, he seems to have a couple of different ways of running sometimes these days, and I wasn't impressed by what I saw at Gorn, albeit he can bounce back, and I think the market will be interesting with him because it does tend to get Boylan right. Hands up, I thought at the Ryanair last year, it was the one result I couldn't really make head nor tail of, him putting up a performance like that off the back of some of the performance we'd seen that season. But when he's good, he is really, really tough to beat. But a horse that profile in a kind of a solid race like this, I just think Manila Indo, with the benefit of a run under his girt, coming here, I think he could be a little bit overlooked. And I'd also say Conflated, one little thing with him, I think is left-handed is better for him than right-handed. I wouldn't mind him overall for a profile going back to Leopardstown at Christmas or something like that. But I just thought Manila Indo ticks a few boxes at the prices.
Just the 4 runners, but a trapping off affair, this Ladbrokes Champion Chase, and differing opinions from everybody. The Haslam Hotel Handicap Hurdle, that's a listed contest. That's also on the card. This looks competitive. I think, Donn, did you have a strong fancy in this one?
Yeah, I like Foxy Girl as a horse, Danny. I think she was really good last season. She was impressive in winning her maiden hurdle, beat In Excess, and In Excess then Madonna won next time out. And I thought that was a good performance. She was up there handy from all. She made nearly all the running. Her jumping was very good, and she won nicely. Then she went to Cheltenham, and she only finished 8th in the Mayor's Novices hurdle, but she ran better than that. She was kind of just in behind the pace. She travelled really well to the home turn. She probably travelled a bit too well. She was just a bit keen early on, and that probably told in the end. But the fact that she was the shortest price of the Henry de Bromhead runners, that was significant for me. Interesting that Henry's putting a hood on her now for her first run this season. And she's the mare from whom there could be a wee bit more to come. Look, the Model Kingdom is a big danger. She was beating at odds on the flat last time, but she just doesn't handle stalls very well. She's always, I think she's only run twice on the flat, and she's thrown or been slow at the stalls on each occasion. So you can allow her that, and she's a big threat. But Foxy Girl is getting a wee bit away from her, and yeah, again another filly who will be interesting with the season ahead. She's got a rating of 123 on her first run now in a handicap, and I think she's got the potential to be a fair bit better than that.
I think it's Boylan versus McLean again, because you're looking elsewhere, aren't you, Mark?
God, I don't like this dynamic, Danny. I have to say, I had Townend and McLean going against me in the Mayor's Novice today, and now I have this awful concern. But I do like the Model Kingdom, and what's even more concerning is I had it down between Model Kingdom and Foxy Girl too. I think they're two well handicapped mares. Just thought the Model Kingdom, exactly as Donna said, the flat angle, thought it was a good run in the circumstances. Ran well at this meeting last season. Barring a disappointing effort at Cheltenham in the Mayor's Novice, I think she's very consistent. And they left the tongue tie off her last time on the flat. It's back on her now. She has tended to wear a tongue tie in the past and bring her best when she does. 10-13 in a race like this. I think she's got a bit of zip, which you typically will need for a race like this. I just thought there were lots of pluses with her, but I definitely respect what Donna's saying with Foxy Girl, first time hood as well. Interesting to see they're going with that on first run, but the little bit of race sharpness coming here after a run on the flat 5 weeks ago, I like the Model Kingdom a lot.
Nicola, any thoughts on this race?
Well, we're not up with them just yet, so I was thinking, God forbid, I try and price it myself and do the odds competitors job, so I'm going to back off on that one.
But that's the 145 listed hurdle. And then the other fascinating race on the card, it's another small runner affair, just the three runners, but the racingtv.com/free trial chase. You've got Visionarian, Ash Tree Meadow, and Farinelli. I'm a big Farinelli fan. Put him up in the Racing TV tracker all year, from the bumper to the hurdles. And then, of course, he then won a Grade 1 chase at the Punchestown Festival. Thought he was disappointing, though, won a second last time out at Galway, though, Donn. I thought it was a weak enough event, and he never looked like winning. He was in trouble a long way out under Mark Walsh. Can we give Farinelli another chance in this event?
You can absolutely give him another chance, Danny. Like what he did last year in this race was quite remarkable. Like he never won a chase. He won his maiden hurdle, and then ran the Grade 3 chase. Went to a Grade 1, and he did this here. Like, what a performance! First Grade 1 win for Emmett Mullins. First Grade 1 win for Donn Myler, and beat good horses in Appreciated and Jamie de Verlaine behind him. Classic Getaway was further back as well. So that was a really impressive performance. He was solid in the market as well. He was well back that day. I suppose at Galway the last day, you're looking for reasons why he underperformed. He was held up. Like, he seemed to really enjoy himself at Punchestown. He was ridden prominently and got into a lovely rhythm over his fences. He was held up the last day at Galway. He made it wasn't a bad mistake, but it was a kind of a momentum halting mistake at the second last fence. And then obviously the last comes up quite quickly. And My Design, I got a bit of a run on him. Look, she's a decent mare. He should have been beating her. Like, I think he had 2 stone in hand, and he was giving her a stone, something like that. But it was disappointing. But I think, given that he's such a lightly raced horse and what he achieved last year, and he's only 6, then you absolutely can't write him off. That said, I think Ash Tree Meadow is possibly the one here. Like, he's again really progressive horse last season. Gordon Elliott, he finished 4th in the Galway Plate last year. Gordon Elliott targeted the Galway Plate again this year. Danny Gilligan gave him a super ride, got him out in front. I think from flagfall, led the whole way, and he kept on really well, as you see here. That's Authorised Art back in second. If you look a wee bit further back, Visionarian's behind in the pink cap. Dennis O'Regan just being passed coming up the hill. I think Visionarian's stamina probably gave way here up the hill at Galway after 2 miles, 6.5 furlongs in a Galway Plate. So you can allow him that. And look, I think he probably would have finished second behind San Sam the last day if San Sam hadn't come down at the last. But he's a good horse at Peter Fahey's, and he's a horse who goes well as well on this type of trip. I think, just short of 2.5 miles is probably optimum for Visionarian. He gets a wee bit further than 2 miles, so he's a player as well. It's a fascinating 3-horse race, but I can see Ash Tree Meadow just getting out in front under Jack Kennedy, and again, he's a horse from whom there could be more to come this season.
Okay, Ash Tree Meadow then for Donn. Paul, of course, St. Sam came to grief for the last when vying with Visionarian last time out. What do you think of Visionarian's chances based on the tussle with St. Sam there?
Yeah, I think Downright, as Don said, will suit him a lot better than Galway. Ashtree Meadow was carrying a featherweight in Galway, but it's a brilliant find for him. He'll be very hard beat. He's the joint highest rated, and he's getting weight off his other two rivals. I think on the day Ashtree Meadow is going to beat Visionarian, but he will get a bit closer to him. But I just think it was the race looks made for Ashtree Meadow, and it's a lovely bit of placing by Gordon. I think Jack will get into rhythm on his own in front, and he'll be very hard to peg back.
There you go. Townend on the move, and he's like that. He likes Ashtree Meadow as well. Mark, what do you like in this?
Yeah, exactly the case as Paul has said. Ashtree Meadow, I think he's going to be very hard to beat. Just actually wanted to ask Paul, particularly with the Galway plate, the first two that took off at the first fence in front, they were the two that end up coming home 1-2. It seems the start is just really tricky. Would you have any thoughts on what could be done to maybe even out that start? Because just being positive seems to be so important, particularly in recent years. It's difficult to get involved from off the pace.
We may have lost Paul. Mark.
Hello.
So with that in mind, what do you like in it?
My fault. Look, Ashtree Meadow, I think he'd be very hard to beat.
I think
very hard to beat.
Did you get that, Paul?
No,
Nicola,
sorry, I
what
lost
do
you
you
there
like?
for a minute, but I'm back now.
Go on, let's try again. Go on.
There's no panic. No, I was just saying, Paul, that the start of the Galway play, it's quite tricky to get involved if you're behind early. The first two that led over the first fence this year were 1-2 the whole way. Is there anything you think could be done, that could even that start out for horses? Maybe they're trying to come from behind, just a mad traffic jam down at the start. You kept it nice and wide this year.
Yeah, look, it's if you don't get away the first time in the Galway plate, it gets tricky because it's so tight down there. And if you get on the front end and jump well, it's very hard to peg back horses. You're turning the whole time, and it's just a really hard place to make up ground. Even that it's a stiff finish. You always, if you're in front dictating it, you can. If you're jumping well, you get breathers when you turn little elbows, and it showed this year again in the Galway plate when Danny got in such a good rhythm in front. Two Dannys.
And Nicola, just your thoughts on this contest? Who do you see coming out on top?
Yeah, I mean, it looks a cracking contest between the three. I don't think there's going to be much between them in the betting. Ashtree Meadow, obviously, is my pick here and the one to beat. But I think this horse could probably go off odds on and probably go up around even money, and then the other two very short behind it. But yeah, really very hard to pick. But Ashtree Meadow for me.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thanks very much to Paul for his company throughout the show. Just a reminder of that Jerry Colomb offer to win by the 4.5 legs, now 2-1, was 13-8. We'll start with the best bets. I'm going to go for the Jerry Colomb and Ferrinelli double. Cannot desert the Ferrinelli. Mark?
The Model Kingdom for me. Danny, looking forward to seeing her out.
What about yourself, Don?
Taking on Mark again. Unfortunately,
No.
Foxy Girl. Yeah, Foxy Girl.
Foxy Girl then for Don. Nicola?
I happen to think the offer I mentioned at the start of the program was very nice indeed. This is just another opportunity to plug it. I don't want to say Jerry Colomb because he's 5-6, so I do fancy Jerry Colomb in that offer to win by over 4.5 lengths at 2-1.
I think we had Paul. Paul is here for the final time. Paul, just one horse to note this weekend. I see Brandy Love is in action in the beginner's chase as well. Is there one horse you're particularly looking forward to riding? Is there one horse you're particularly looking forward to riding this weekend, Paul?
Yeah, Brandy Love, I think, is going to be very exciting over fences. Obviously, Gorn isn't the right way around for her, but with the ground being soft, we might elect to go on the outside anyway. So hopefully, we won't be giving away too much ground with the fences. She's her schooling's been brilliant. She didn't get a clear run last season, but I think she could have a big year ahead if she takes the fences like we think she can.
We can watch the action from Down Royal, Gorham Park, and Nace's course this weekend, all on Racing TV. Thanks very much to Paul. Good luck to him for the season. Thanks to Nicola, Mark, and Donn. You'll enjoy all the action this weekend. Please remember to gamble responsibly, and remember you can watch all the action exclusively live on Racing TV from Down Royal, the Ladbrokes Champion Chase, of course, the highlight. Thanks so much for your company. Don't worry, Johnny will be back for the next episode. This has been On The Wire, and thanks so much for your company. Enjoy the action on Racing TV this weekend.
On the Wire, in association with Ladbrokes.